Turning Uraken. We learn an art that actually obviously has a lot of structure to it. I mean, in the beginning, it was, you have to have 60% of your weight there, 40% of your weight there. These lines had to be exactly true. And, using the first two knuckles, everything aligned properly. And that is absolutely what you do in the beginning. But at some point, you kind of break free of that because you don't want the structure to be too encumbering. It doesn't want to hold you too tight because your art should be very alive. It should be fluid and dynamic, okay? So, for example, in the punching that we did a second ago, everyone stand up for just a second and make your kibata. Okay, so I would say a couple things going on here. Try this. Keep your knees really true, like connected really true, and then just kind of torque your hip a little bit so you get this kind of like maybe my left hip is pushing out about 1.5 inches, and then go back to the other side. And just recognize how much freedom of movement I have sort of within this structure. Feel that? Yeah. So I'm not just standing in a kibadachi punching from the shoulders, but I'm kind of feeling my whole body engage my technique. So say you throw your left hand out, and that left hip is protruding. It's kind of getting behind this elbow as it drives that punch. And then I want you to imagine this feeling, like if you took a spring and you anchored it on the ground and you're kind of torquing it, that's sort of what you might want to feel right there. So right now I'm kind of stretching into that movement. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to release that torque and going to the other side. Try that. So I want to go tuck, 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 tuck. So I'm going to dig the front of my hip into the back of my elbow without my knees wobbling. So you keep your knees really true, but feel this sort of spring kind of stretchy feeling in your technique. So there's a little more vibrancy, a little more aliveness in your movement. Try it a couple times on your own. Feel that. Okay. Think of this. You can stay in your kibadachi for a second. When I make gyakutsuki, part of making gyakutsuki is this rotating of my hip, right? So I'm in sort of hanmei like that, and when I punch, I basically get that motion going like that. But that's partly my obliques pulling, but it's also partly this leg driving. So I'm driving with my leg, and that's all getting behind my elbow. I would say you want that same thing in your kibadachi. So it's not as obvious, but when you make this punch, you want to feel that foot pushing that rotation. So again, I'm not just twisting at my hips, but part of that twist is I'm driving off the floor. So I'm pushing down with that foot while I'm pushing out with that hand. Ideally, I'd like to feel like that little squeeze of peanut butter between my first two knuckles is associated with the pressure of my foot on the ground. So it's like, feel that feeling, that feeling. So I'm driving just like gyakutsuki. So try that. Blocking. What I'd like to feel is like my whole body resonates, whatever the movement is, whatever. If I'm doing a knife hand block or something, instead of standing here and just blocking, I want to feel how is my whole body contributing to that gesture that I'm putting out there. Do you get that idea? So it's like you just want to feel the totality of your internal state from foot all the way to your technique. So that is a type of way of almost looking at your karate as a way of like waking up your body. Like how do I fully engage my body? I leave nothing behind. Okay? So that would say that. Now when I watch people that do that, and they say, wow, I never really thought of it that way, the next thing happens is then they start thinking and their consciousness kind of does that. So I would say you got to remember that this is like your operating system. So you don't want to ever be kind of caught in your space when you're doing something. I think and I'm kind of concentrating and I'm looking down like that. What you always want is this feeling of shoulder down, eye up, kind of looking to an infinite point. So there's a robustness in my spirit that my technique is kind of falling into. This is like Funakashi's, spirit first idea. So when you step, you got to step with this feeling of like going in this. You can't step with a feeling of trepidation. Or I can't practice Shotokan karate being so precise. Oftentimes we're super locked in our head. We're trying to make the perfect technique. I would say, no, at some point you don't think about making the perfect technique. You just move. When I'm stepping, just move. Don't really be too concerned. Because concern is this. Did you follow that idea? Okay. My Aikido teacher, Satomi sensei, says, it's not I-body though. He says it's Aikido. So Aiki is like the energy connection quality. So when you engage, right? No. When you step. When you do kata, you have that same feeling in your kata. You know, when you step Gidanbarai, I mean, that feeling is like you're filling the space with your everything, for lack of a better word. Okay? Like, I have this sort of heretical thing that I tell people, find your own karate. And people say, what is he talking about, find your own karate? But the fact is that everybody in here has their own karate. And the people that we admired and had great respect for and considered the great traditionalists, whether they were Funakashi sensei or Ueshiba sensei or Kano sensei, they were all extreme innovators in their art. They found some connection and then tried to share that with others. And so I say, hey, maybe that's part of the path, doing that. You follow that?